I'm Chef Mike, and this is Urban Kitchen. Today we're making a great sweet and sour chicken with a wonderful fragrant rice. It's got lots of fresh vegetables and a homemade sauce. For the sweet and sour chicken, you'll need some boneless, skinless chicken thighs cut up into small pieces. The vegetables can be really anything that you like, but we're using zucchini, carrots, red bell peppers, and fresh green beans. You also need a green onion, 2 eggs, some flour, salt and pepper, and a can of Lychees, as well as some Chinese cooking wine. Or if you can't find that, you can substitute a really dry white wine or cooking sherry. We're also going to make a fragrant rice, and we're using brown jasmine rice. We're going to season that with some turmeric, salt, white pepper, cloves, and a star anise. For our homemade sweet and sour sauce, you'll need some pineapple juice, water, apple cider vinegar, brown sugar, some additional Chinese cooking wine, ground ginger, salt and pepper, and some cornstarch. So let's start off by making the jasmine rice that's going to go with our sweet and sour chicken. We're using brown rice, but this is a brown jasmine rice, so it has a lot more flavor than just regular brown rice, but it is going to take quite a long time to cook, so that's why we want to get that started right now before we make the other ingredients. We're going to flavor it with some really interesting spices, and that's going to give it a really aromatic fragrance and make it really delicious. So I have ground turmeric, which is that really yellow spice that gives a lot of Indian food its color, but it also has a really nice earthy flavor. Also salt and white pepper, and whole cloves, which we're going to take out when the rice is done. We're also going to use a star anise, which is this really interesting spice that's got a beautiful shape to it and adds a really exotic flavor to it, a little bit licorice-like. So all of these ingredients are going to go straight into our pot. I've already got 2 cups of water in there to 1 cup of rice. And that's generally the rule, 2 parts water to 1 part rice, but you want to just check the package that you're using to make sure that it doesn't recommend more or less. So this just goes onto the stove. You're going to bring it to a boil and then shut the heat down to about low or medium low and just let it simmer for about 40 minutes with the cover on until the rice absorbs all of the water and it looks nice and fluffy. So now that the rice is on the stove, it's time to make our homemade sweet and sour sauce. And I really like to use fresh ingredients and make my own sauce, because if you buy a bottle on the shelf, you never really know what's in there, and there are a lot of artificial ingredients sometimes, high fructose corn syrup, so when you make it yourself, you know exactly what you're putting into it. And this is a real simple, easy recipe, and the sweet and sour sauce that's left over, you can just keep in the refrigerator and use it another time. So we're going to mix all the ingredients together. I have water and canned pineapple juice. That's giving us our sweetness. And we have apple cider vinegar for the sour. A little more of that Chinese rice wine. Cornstarch, which will help to thicken this up. And brown sugar for some more sweetness. And ground up ginger powder for just for flavor. Mix that all together, whisk it until everything is nice and dissolved. Then we're going to add about 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. That's going to give us the saltiness. And then it goes right onto the stove. We're going to bring it to a boil and then reduce it down, and it's just going to cook until it gets nice and thick and reduced to kind of a syrupy texture. So that'll take probably about 15 or 20 minutes. So the rice is on the stove, the sweet and sour sauce is simmering down, getting nice and thick. Now it's time to take care of the chicken. We're using boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I think that adds a lot more flavor, but if you like the boneless breast, you can use that instead. I have 2 boneless chicken thighs that I cut up into small pieces, bite size. We're going to let them marinate and in the fridge get the flavor developed a little bit. So I'm going to throw in the chopped green onion and some salt, 1/4 teaspoon. And for this recipe we're using white pepper. White pepper is quite a bit different than black pepper in terms of its flavor. It's a lot earthier and kind of a little more pungent. It's really common in a lot of Asian cooking, so I like to use that especially here because it gives a really distinct flavor to this. The other interesting ingredient is Chinese cooking wine. It's called Shaoxing wine, and it's going to be found in an Asian market if you have access to that. It's really a great ingredient to have because it has kind of a sourness to it, but it's not sweet at all, and really useful in a lot of cooking in Asian cuisine. But if you can't find it, you can substitute rice wine vinegar or a really, really dry white wine, or if you have sherry, you can use that too. Just toss that together with your hands, and we're going to throw this into the refrigerator, let it marinate for about 30 minutes, and then get back to stir frying everything together. So now that our chicken is done, we can focus on the vegetables. And this is a really great recipe to add a lot of vegetables to your diet. You can use really anything that you like and mix it up if something is in season or something you've got left in the fridge. So today we're going to use a couple carrots, a zucchini, a red bell pepper, and some fresh green beans. We'll start with the carrots. Just cut off the ends. And for this recipe, it's really important that the vegetables be cut in the right way so that they cook properly together. So for the carrots, I like to make them sort of on the bias like this. So I'm going to cut kind of on an angle. It also looks really pretty that way. So you want them about 1/4 to 1/2 inch wide. Set those aside. For the zucchini, we're going to cut these into half moons. So take off the stem and the other end. And then slice the zucchini lengthwise all the way down. And then we'll cut half moons. Again, you want about 1/2 inch at the most. Zucchini cooks a little bit faster than the carrots, so you can make these a little bit bigger. You could substitute yellow squash for the zucchini, even eggplant if you like. Set those aside. And for the bell peppers, you can use red, green, yellow, really anything. I'm going to cut those into strips. Just nice long strips first. And then cut those in half. That's just going to make it a little easier to eat. Green beans, you just need to trim off the ends. The end with the stem needs to go. You don't have to worry about this end. That end is perfectly okay to eat. Trim all of those ends off, and then you want to cut those in about 1 inch lengths. So about that size will be good. We'll go ahead and do the rest of these. In addition to the vegetables, we're going to add a little bit of sweetness with some canned lychees. And these are a fun fruit. They're a little hard to find sometimes. You again might have to go to an Asian grocery store if you can find one. But sometimes some of the bigger grocery stores or natural food stores will have canned lychees. They're a really fragrant kind of a fruit, and they're usually packed in heavy syrup. So we need to drain those off. But you want to save the syrup because we're going to use use that syrup a little bit later. Make sure they're really well drained. Those are going to go into our stir fry at the very end, just to warm them up. So just dust the chicken with a little flour, toss it around, just until it's kind of lightly coated. You don't need a lot of flour here. It's just going to absorb a little bit of the moisture and help the egg white to stick. Pour in the egg whites and toss that around until it's nicely coated. It's not going to look real pretty right now, but I promise you it's going to taste really good later. Once the egg white is all mixed in, a little bit more flour, and again that's going to help give it a nice crisp coating on the outside before we fry it. Just make sure you stir it really well. Make sure that the chicken isn't sticking together too much because you want it to fry really evenly. Then we're ready to go into the hot pan. We're going to stir fry in this cast iron skillet. You don't need a wok at home to stir fry. Just use a nice big skillet that you might have. I'm using olive oil, but you can use any kind of oil. We want 3 or 4 tablespoons in there to stir fry the chicken. You want to get that on medium-high heat to make sure that it gets nice and hot so that the chicken crisps up really well. We're going to cook the chicken first and then take it out of the pan and cook the vegetables. So once your oil is really hot, just drop the chicken in and try to give it some room in the pan so that it has room to evenly cook. That's going to cook for probably 3 or 4 minutes, just until the chicken starts to release itself from the pan. Don't try to stir it around or anything right now because it's just going to stick. The chicken's not sticking now, so you can see it's starting to get just a little bit brown color. You just want to seal in that outer batter that we made. You want to break it apart with your spoon so that it cooks evenly. This first time, we're going to cook it twice actually. The first time is just to seal in that coating, then we're going to take it out of the pan, then we're going to cook the vegetables, and then we'll bring the chicken back in the pan at the very end to finish cooking. Okay, the chicken's out of the pan. Don't worry if there are some of the bits of breading left in there. Those will come up when you cook the vegetables. And there's still a couple tablespoons of oil left in there. So go ahead and add all the vegetables, all at the same time. This is why it's really important that they're cooked, that they're cut in the same similar shapes so that they cook evenly. Stir those around, let them cook this way for about 4 minutes, and then we're going to add a little bit of water to the pan and cover it so that it'll continue cooking in steam. Alright, looks like it's done. There's no more water left. We're going to go ahead and shut the heat off. If you want, you can pull out the star anise and the cloves if you can find them. But you can also leave them in there and just take them out when you serve it. So I'll shut the heat off there and just let that stay covered so it's nice and warm. Meanwhile, the veggies have sauteed for a little while. We're going to add some water and then cover it really quickly. This is going to trap the steam in there, and then the vegetables will continue cooking and get steamed and completely done without overcooking them. If you don't have a lid for a big pan like this, just use a pizza pan or a cookie sheet or something big like that and set it on top. It works just as well. Let's check the vegetables. Be careful when you take that lid off because the steam can get in your face. All the water is evaporated, so that's good. The vegetables are just about done. I'm going to add the chicken back in. And we're going to continue cooking that until the chicken is fully cooked all the way. And you'll just have to test the heat and just make sure that it's done. But it'll just take probably 3 or 4 more minutes. So at this point, it looks like the chicken is done all the way through. We can add our sweet and sour sauce. And this makes more than you'll probably need, so you can just add as much as you like. Probably about half of what you made will be perfect. Also add the lychees. And just stir that until it's nice and coated and the sauce covers everything. Take it off the heat so that you don't burn that sweet and sour sauce. And now we're ready to plate it up with the rest. Rice in the bowl. And if you like, you can grab those whole cloves and start a new salad if you find them. And we'll top that with our sweet and sour chicken. All those beautiful vegetables. And little interesting lychee fruits. And you can see this is plenty. Even though we only used 2 chicken thighs, it made plenty for at least 2 people, if not more. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these recipes and they inspire you to get into your own kitchen and start cooking. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and join me again next time on Urban Kitchen here on GayChicagoTV.com.